Oda may have quietly brought Zoro closer to his ultimate goal than ever before. And with the Final Saga revealing stronger enemies, deeper Haki mechanics, and legendary figures from the past, the question of whether Zoro can finally defeat Mihawk has never felt more relevant. Stay until the end, because the answer becomes far more complicated the deeper we compare both swordsmen. Zoro's most recent fight. The fight against King completely changed the way fans view Zoro's strength. Before Wano, Zoro possessed incredible endurance and swordsmanship, but his greatest weakness was his inability to fully control the power hidden within Enma. During the battle, Zoro not only learned how to draw out his Haki properly, but also awakened advanced Conqueror's Haki. That alone placed him among a very small group of elite fighters capable of coding their attacks with the power of a king. More importantly, Zoro defeated an opponent who served directly under Kaido. King was one of the strongest commanders in the world, and his Lunarian abilities made him nearly impossible to damage. The fact that Zoro overcame that challenge proves he has already entered a completely different level compared to the beginning of the New World. Enma remains one of the biggest reasons why Zoro is closer to Mihawk than ever before. Unlike ordinary swords, Enma constantly demands Haki from its user and punishes weakness immediately. This creates a unique form of training every time Zoro fights. Rather than simply swinging a blade, he is forced to continuously improve his Haki output just to use the weapon properly. There is also the symbolic connection to Ryuma and Odin. Both figures are legendary swordsmen whose names still echo throughout history. By mastering Enma, Zoro is slowly inheriting part of that legacy while building a path toward becoming the strongest swordsman himself. If he eventually turns it into a black blade, Zoro could be an extremely dangerous character in the verse. Conqueror's Haki. One of the biggest differences between current Zoro and the version that trained under Mihawk is the existence of advanced Conqueror's Haki. This power drastically increases offensive capabilities and allows attacks to damage opponents without direct contact. NANI? The strongest fighters in One Piece rely heavily on this ability. Roger used it. Whitebeard used it. Shanks uses it. Kaido used it. Now, Zoro possesses it as well. That alone makes the comparison with Mihawk much more interesting than it was a few years ago. For the first time in the series, Zoro has access to the same class of power used by the very strongest people in the world. Mihawk. Despite all of Zoro's growth, Mihawk remains an enormous obstacle. The title of world's strongest swordsman still belongs to him, and Oda has never shown Mihawk struggling seriously against anyone. Even after decades of serialization, most of Mihawk's true abilities remain hidden. We still have not seen him fight at full power. We have not seen the limits of his Haki. We have not seen his strongest techniques. That mystery matters. Whenever Oda keeps a character hidden for this long, it usually means their true strength is significantly greater than what fans currently imagine, just like we saw with Emu on Elbaf Island. Marineford. Marineford provides one of the best examples of Mihawk's status. During the war, Mihawk casually launched attacks capable of crossing the battlefield and forcing even powerful fighters to react. What stands out most is how effortless everything appeared. Mihawk never looked desperate. He never seemed pushed to his limits. He participated in the war almost like an observer, measuring the strength of others. That level of confidence is extremely rare among top-tier characters. It suggests a fighter who understands exactly where he stands within the world's hierarchy. And honestly, this is where the debate becomes really interesting. So if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, because the Final Saga is only making these power comparisons even crazier. Shanks. One of the biggest arguments in Zoro's favor comes from Shanks. Throughout the story, Mihawk has repeatedly been compared to the red-haired emperor. Their legendary duels became famous across the entire world. Whitebeard himself remembered them years later. If Mihawk was once capable of fighting evenly with Shanks, then becoming stronger than Mihawk would place Zoro among the absolute strongest characters alive. That is exactly why defeating Mihawk has always been more than a personal dream. It represents the final step required to enter the highest level of power in the entire series. Elbaf. The Final Saga continues pushing Zoro forward. During recent events, Oda has repeatedly placed him against increasingly dangerous enemies, while revealing new information about Haki and ancient powers. At the same time, Mihawk remains untouched by the chaos. He sits in the background, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. This narrative structure feels intentional. Oda is slowly strengthening Zoro, while preserving Mihawk as the final measuring stick for his journey. Every arc brings Zoro closer to that moment. The gap. The most important question is whether the gap between them still exists. The answer is probably yes. Current Zoro is undoubtedly stronger than ever before. He possesses advanced Conqueror's Haki, controls Enma far better, and has defeated enemies that would have seemed impossible years ago. However, Mihawk still represents the summit Zoro has been climbing toward since the very beginning of One Piece. If Zoro could already defeat him today, the emotional impact of their final duel would disappear completely. Oda has spent over 1,000 chapters building toward that fight. It is unlikely that the student has already surpassed the master before their destined rematch. The final duel. When Zoro and Mihawk finally fight again, the result will likely be very different from their first meeting in East Blue. Back then, Zoro could barely understand the gap separating them. Today, he possesses the strength to stand in front of Mihawk as a genuine challenger. That alone is an incredible achievement. But if the fight happened right now, Mihawk would probably still win after an extremely difficult battle. Zoro has reached the gates of his dream, but he may need one final leap before he can truly claim the title of World's Strongest Swordsman. And when that day finally comes, it will not simply be Zoro defeating Mihawk. It will be the completion of a promise that began all the way back in the East Blue.